Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I'm super excited today to bring you our ihelpmoms.com family therapist and also the founder of Infinite Intimacy, Rachel. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure.
Super excited to talk about on our episode today what to do with your significant other when you're not in the mood, right? Mm-hmm. So as a mom, we're busy, we're going a million miles an hour. And a lot of times, once we put the kids to bed and we have a little bit of reprieve, we kind of hit this mode where like, we know we should be doing one thing, but our mommy brain hasn't stopped working. So Rachel is going to really help us to work through the difference between men and women and how we can connect better. And so if you want to grab your significant other, bring them into this video because you're definitely going to want them to hear this. So I want to kick it off by talking about the scientific difference between desire and arousal.
Yes, so when we talk about sexual desire, desire itself is our libido, it's our sex drive, it's our wanting to have sex, our emotional and mental being in the mood, right?
Yeah.
And then arousal is really our body's physical response to sex, right? So we like to think of them as the same and they happen at the same time, but they really don't.
Yeah.
It's two separate responses in our sexual response cycle.
And I think it was so interesting talking with you about the difference between how men go through that physiologically and the way that especially us as moms kind of have to transition. Can you talk into that a little bit more?
Sure. Well, there's two different types of desire, right? There's spontaneous desire and responsive desire.
Yeah.
So what the research shows is that men tend to be a little bit more spontaneous in their desire, while women tend to be a little bit more responsive. So I just want to kind of explain the differences between the two. So spontaneous desire is when we are thinking about sex. That's our, we really want it. It's something that we want right now, and then our arousal happens.
Yeah.
So our body responds after our mind tells us that that's what we want.
Yeah.
Right. So these are the ones that are maybe initiating sex a little bit more because they're thinking about it a little bit more. And so they're the ones that are really seem like they're in the mood all the time. Right.
Interesting.
Responsive desire is the opposite. So responsive desire happens after we are physically aroused.
Yep.
And then our mental and emotional wanting comes after. So it kind of happens like in the midst of a sexual experience.
Interesting.
So these are the ones where, once we're kind of really getting physical and touching and playing, that then it's like, oh, okay, I'm having a good time. I didn't think I was going to have a good time, but I guess I am having a good time.
Yeah.
It's really allowing yourself to get to that point because you're not the one that is constantly thinking about sex.
And something that Rachel and I were talking about pre-show was that so many moms focus completely on their kids, and then we're supposed to have like this magic switch to turn on our other side of ourselves and our sexual being and our femininity. And so I love talking about these neurological differences because I think we need to just take a time out and really think about how does your body respond, and then so important to communicate that to your partner, right? Because again, I hope your partner's watching this with you because I think so many couples just think, well, I think this way, you should think this way too. But physiologically and scientifically, it doesn't happen that way.
No, our bodies, men and women, respond to sex completely different. I think we are taught to believe, if we are not really educated on the process, I think society tells us, the movies, the videos, the music, we're supposed to, want each other at the same time and all the time, and I climax at the same time you climax, and we get aroused in the same way. It's completely different processes, and it's okay that it's different because our bodies are different.
Love that. So we're gonna get into the next question here, and I asked Rachel, what are the biggest things that shut down the mood the desire, and arousal. What are your big 3 things that can really affect that in a relationship?
So stress is the number 1 killer of libido, of our sex drive.
How many moms out there have some stress in their lives, right?
Yep.
So I love that we're talking about this, because we have got to take self-care
Mm-hmm.
as a huge part of our
Exactly.
life as moms.
Exactly. Taking that time out to reconnect with ourselves and our bodies. There's this idea out there, if we don't use it, we lose it,
Yeah.
So if we're not actively really taking care of ourselves and even if we're not necessarily in the mood to kind of be open to maybe having an intimate and sexual experience, the more that we open ourselves up, the more we enjoy it, and then the more we want it.
Yeah, I love that. So, I know that I've seen at our own Yes We Can conferences, and I'm sure you've probably seen your therapy practice, so I'm intrigued to ask you. I think when we hear about, okay, stress definitely kills your libido, it's a killer of arousal, and then you point the finger at the other partner in the relationship. Do you find that a lot in therapy? Because what I see is one of the best things we can do is hold that mirror up to ourselves and say, how do we decrease our own stress levels, right? Do you find that in therapy, or
even when it comes to the relationship, there's stress on the relationship and the intimacy because we have these expectations, right? And unrealistic expectations a lot of times, because we think things are supposed to be a certain way when in reality it's not. And if we're not having these conversations and understanding the differences in our response cycle and what turns me on versus what turns you on, right? We just automatically assume that what works for me is what works for you. But like we talked about last week, there is no normal, right? So what works for me is different than what works for you. So if we're thinking about this point of connection and making sure that we're understanding what the other partner needs and wants, then it's easier to incorporate.
I love that. So some great tips to lower stress so that you can keep desire high. So tell me what your number 2 factor is that can really depress or lower a couple's libido.
So hormones come into play, right? So that also includes depression, lack of sleep, all of these things that's affecting our energy and our body and the way that our body is physically responding to the world, not just intimate experiences, plays a huge role.
So super duper important after having those kiddos. Making sure you take inventory of how you're feeling, are there new medications that you're taking that could be affecting that, and just really taking, again, self-reflection to say what could be really improved maybe, and we've got some great doctors on ihelpmoms.com that can help you with hormone balancing and help you look at adrenal fatigue and some different things, acupuncturists. We believe in a wide variety of experts to help you be your best self. So again, make sure that you take time to look in the mirror and think about, have you had some big fluctuations after having kids, which is something that definitely happens. And then the third point that I love that you brought up about things that can affect a couple's desire and arousal is how we feel regarding trust and safety and comfort. So talk a little bit more about that.
Exactly. Well, women tend to value those emotional connections a little bit more than men. And, not to say that men don't need those things, because they absolutely do. In the research, it shows that women kind of value this emotional connection more so than men, but again, men also need that emotion as well. So it's when women feel that they can trust their partner, that there's this open communication and we're on the same page, then it's easier to kind of just flow into it. So that also has to do with respect and admiration, right? So when we admire someone, we kind of see them in a different light. So if we kind of see them as, this person's doing all these wonderful things, it draws us to them in a way that maybe we didn't before.
I love that. That's so important. So every show, we love to give you guys strategies and tips to actually take into relationships. So Rachel is going to talk to us a little bit about foreplay, setting the mood, and things that we can do to enhance desire, arousal, and really get things moving even when you might not be in the mood. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So the application is really getting on the same page with your partner, you know, understanding, asking yourself, you know, what type of response do I have? Am I more spontaneous or am I more responsive?
Yeah.
And then what about my partner? Is he or she more spontaneous or responsive?
Yeah.
And once you understand that maybe there's a difference, then you can more easily get on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, and then it opens up the conversation and then you can adjust accordingly. So let's say I'm the more responsive type and you're the more spontaneous type.
Yeah.
Then it's kind of, we have to understand, okay, you have to be a little bit more patient and you have to kind of be okay with putting in that extra time of helping me to get into the mood because I'm not mentally, emotionally ready. So we need to slow things down, right? And that's where the foreplay comes in. And I hesitate to use the word foreplay because it implies that something needs to come after, right? But if we're taking a step back, like we talked about last week, of looking at intimacy as more than just sex, and this point of connection, this time to just reconnect and play and have fun and explore each other, you know, that is really what foreplay entails, without the pressure and expectation of a specific outcome. And when we have that expectation of this is what has to happen, then it ruins the mood, because then we put ourselves in a place of, okay, I gotta know that I have to do this is what happens, rather than being in the moment, enjoying the experience. Just mutual pleasure is really the whole point of sexual experiences and intimacy. It's for the both of us to connect and have a good time.
Love it. So if you want to have more fun, play more, and just enjoy connecting with the very person that you chose to have children with in this world, or you're bringing up a family with, these tips are huge. So we invite you guys to put them into action, because we at ihelpmoms.com are here to make motherhood easier, healthier, and happier. So we will see you guys every Tuesday. Make sure you email us your questions at info@ihelpmoms.com. We're going to be filming live with a production crew, and we want to answer your questions. So email us, and you can always hashtag asking for a friend, because we get it. You want to be anonymous and we respect you. So email us, and we will see you guys every Tuesday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.